So if you're here because you're thinking about all the ways that you can gouge your customers for more money, this is not that video. But in any case, let's start today's video with a little story. Now, recently, my family went on a vacation to London and Paris. Now, it was a family trip that we had planned to go on during the pandemic. Now that things are finally getting back to normal, we finally took the family on this trip. Now, this was my family's first trip to both cities. I did take my wife to Paris when I proposed, but that was more like a weekend trip in the middle of winter, so it didn't really count. So this time, we did all the normal touristy things that you would normally expect to do. Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, Harry Potter, Eiffel Tower, the Mona Lisa, all the usual spots that you would visit when you're tourists in these cities. Now, when you're in these cities, there are a million ways that you can experience it. You can go off and explore it on your own, or you can go on a group tour, or you can get a private tour. Now, here's the thing about me and Karis, if you guys don't know this already. Being around large groups of people, that is not our thing, which is a bit ironic in and of itself because of what we do for a living. But the silver lining in all of this is that at least at weddings, everyone is having a great time and they're generally on their best behavior. But coming from a big city ourselves, we know that people in general, in public, especially around strangers, they're usually on their absolute worst behavior. Now, if you don't believe me, go to any airplane terminal when they're announcing the boarding groups. Think about the last time that you stood in line in front of a store on Black Friday. Think about your average run-of-the-mill Facebook group. When a large number of strangers congregate in any large group, the chances of there being an asshole in that group, ruining the party for everyone, goes right through the fucking roof. And Karis and I don't ever want to be in the middle of that. So we nip this in the bud by staying away from crowds in general, outside of weddings, of course. And this means that we don't go to the malls on the weekends. We don't go grocery shopping on the weekends. We don't even go to movies on opening night. And we definitely do not do group tours. So what do you do if you want a tour of a city and you don't want to miss anything either? Our kids have very little patience or appetite to explore the city with their parents for a whole day. But Karis and I don't really know our way around Paris. So we did what seemed most reasonable at the time, and we booked ourselves a private tour of the city. And it wasn't just a tour of the city or one of those double-decker bus things, right? It was a private boat tour where we got to go around the entire city on a tiny little boat. It was really cute, actually. Was it more expensive than a group tour? Yes, it was more expensive, but it wasn't really that much more expensive. I think it was like $300 for the four of us, and we didn't have to deal with other tourists. We didn't have to wait in line. Everything was on our schedule. And we had this tour guide's undivided attention. We even got snacks and drinks. And to top it off, our tour guide even photographed us around all the major landmarks around the city and kept us entertained the entire time. He was worth every single penny and possibly a whole lot more. Now, I'm not telling you this just to humble brag, but I'm telling you this because we paid a little bit more for something when cheaper options were available to us. And if you think about it, for every purchasing decision that you've ever made in your life, there have always been cheaper alternatives that were available to you, but you decided to spend a little bit more. Think about the last time that you guys bought a car, a home, or even what you ate for lunch. I guarantee you there was a cheaper option available to you, but you didn't take it. You decided to spend a little more. Sometimes you decided to spend a whole lot more. Why? Which brings me to today's topic. Your customers are no different from you and me. They spend more for stuff all the time, wedding photography included. They spend more because they want something very specific. The solution that they found solves a very specific problem that they have. They also spend more because they're trying to avoid something, also something very specific. Your job as the business owner, not the wedding photographer, but the business owner, is to find out what that thing is that they're trying to avoid. Your job is to find out what it is that they're desiring. And once you figure that part out, put it in your marketing copy, put it in your branding and everything that you do. Then when your customers come across everything that you've presented to them, they'll reasonably conclude that you are exactly what they're looking for. Now, when it comes to your customers, they're willing to spend more, especially if your solution takes care of a very specific problem for them. Your job as the seller is to figure out what that problem is. So even if there is a cheaper option out there that they're considering, they will still go with you every single time. They're not looking for the cheapest solution. They're looking for the best solution. And in order for you to figure out what it is that you want to show, you'll need to figure out what those problems are. Sometimes these customers will flat out tell you what those problems are. Sometimes you'll have to ask, but most of the time, you'll just have to learn how to read between the lines. That last part is probably where most of us get stuck, but I can assure you that it gets a little bit easier to do over time. So you might be asking, Ben, how do I get unstuck? It all comes down to a few mindset shifts. The first thing that you've got to acknowledge is that your product is not for everyone. You have to figure out who your product best serves. It's not a newly engaged couple who likes pretty photos and has a big budget. That is not who your product is for. Because if this were the case, you and the rest of the world are marketing to the same group of people. your audience wouldn't be able to tell the difference between you and every Tom, Dick, and Harry wedding photographer out there. It would be nearly impossible for you to rise above the noise if these were your only criteria. So what you need to do instead is figure out which problems your product solves and sell that. That is what you market. That is what you sell. And if you can connect with your target audience because your product best serves them, they will pay more for it every single time. The second thing that you need to do is stop selling all the time. If you're constantly posting on social and TikTok and Instagram, trying to get some attention, telling the whole world and showing the world how awesome you are selling. Your prospects don't like that, and they don't want to see that because they don't like being sold to. In that case, I would invite you to try something else. Think about how you can best serve your audience. If you've done your homework properly, you'll know exactly what it is that they're struggling with and the kind of answers that they're looking for. I can't tell you what that is because everyone's target audience is going to be a little different. My wife and I own and manage 3 wedding photography brands, and the stuff that they're all looking for, the stuff that's important to them, is different across all 3 brands. As the business owners, we know this and we understand this on the most granular level. So instead of selling them stuff all the time, telling them how awesome we are, we're very diligent about presenting them with content that we believe will resonate with them. And when it's done this way, it's not salesy at all because they're coming to our content, engaging with it because it resonates with them. It's precisely what they're looking for. We're not shoving this stuff in their faces, and they're coming to us on their own free will. It's got nothing to do with our pricing, our portfolio, or even our FAQ, because my wife and I know that we're serving 3 very distinctive markets. We intentionally readjust our messaging, what we show, and what we say accordingly. Last but not least, you want to let others do the selling for you, whether it's through online reviews or referrals. Don't underestimate the power of others who will happily do the selling for you for free. And this works even when you're the most expensive option. When we were looking at all the different ways that we can tour Paris by boat, the guy that we ended up using had the most reviews. They all ended up being perfect 5 stars, and every review just simply ranted and raved about his services, his kindness, his humor, his generosity. Everything, any pain point imaginable was covered in these hundreds and hundreds of reviews. So even though he was the most expensive option compared to everyone else who was offering something similar, not only did he maintain a fully booked calendar, customers were chasing him down instead of the other way around, because everyone who's ever come into contact with him was shouting his name from the rooftops. Anyone who's ever inquired with him were already on board with him, pun intended, before he even uttered a word. He's just facilitating the transaction at that point. I mean, isn't that the dream? Where you have so many inquiries of ready and willing buyers who want to throw their money at you, sight unseen. So how do you do this in your own business? Well, you do this by doing good work, always coming from a place of service and not being an asshole. Apply this with everything that you do for your customers, vendors, and everyone in your orbit, and I promise you in no time, you'll have your own personal sales team for free. If you guys want to learn more about how we do this, I can offer you my free training on exactly how I do this. Please comment below with the words referral marketing, and I'll be happy to register you for the free training. And there you have it. And this is exactly how you get customers to go with you, even when you're the most expensive option, because at the end of the day, they will pay the extra if you can check off all these boxes and be amazing where it counts for your audience. So if you guys found this video to be helpful, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and invite your friends to the party. As always, thank you guys all so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Bye.